Hey folks, happy New Year. My name is Emily and this is a special episode of 108 Stitches, which is normally a video podcast, mostly about knitting, but sometimes about some other stuff, including a little bit of baseball here and there. And I am coming to you from Seattle, Washington, where I live with my pup Norman, who you may have just seen run up the stairs, and my husband Nafis. And oh gosh, I feel a little bit out of practice. I haven't recorded one of these in a while. So today is, oh gosh, what day is it? January 9th, I think? Yes, today is January 9th, 2021. Yeah, so again, Happy New Year to everyone. And it is my first video of the year. And I feel like I'm saying a ton again. I'm definitely out of practice. But you may notice, if you are a returning viewer of the podcast, you may notice that this is a little bit of a different location than usual. Here comes Norman. You can see him running around maybe a little bit. Yeah, this is a little bit of a different location, and I think that's part of the reason why Norm is particularly interested in what's going on right now. But I am recording downstairs, so in our house, normally you see me upstairs, like on the couch, and today I'm recording downstairs in our second bedroom slash office slash yarn storage. I am doing a stash tour, which I know is something that some of you asked for when I did my giveaway thread a while back, and I thought this would be a really good time to do it. So the point of this video, I don't know if it's probably not going to be a normal episode because I'm not going to talk about like all the things that I'm knitting right now or anything, but the point of this video will just be to give you guys a little bit of an idea what's in my stash, and then also to talk about my 2020 goals and whether I met them or not, and then my 2021 knitting goals. So going into the new year, what things I'm planning for myself. And I thought this going through the stash would be a really good way to do that as well, because I can go through some of the yarn that I have and the plans that I have for it. So most of the yarn in my stash I actually have plans for. Most of the time when I buy yarn, I have a project or something in mind. And so I can just go through kind of what my plans are. And that can change, of course, but what I'm thinking. So I guess maybe I'll start by talking about what my 2020 goals were and whether I met them or not. So maybe I can put on the screen over here my goals. And so the first goal was to knit 4 garments, and that seemed really ambitious at the beginning of the year because if you remember, if you've watched my sweater video, I talked about how 2020, this is the first year I've ever knit more than one sweater or more than one garment. So in each of 2018 and 2019, I knit 1 sweater. And so, dude, he's being a little bit wild right now. So in 2020, I guess set out to knit at least 4 garments. And so garments included for me, don't play with the yarn, dude. Garments included for me sweaters, t-shirts, even like tanks and bralettes. And so I blew that 4 garments goal out of the water. I ended up actually knitting, I think, 11 or 12 if you count bralettes. And if you count just full-length sweaters, so with full sleeves, I think I knit 6. So that was really exciting. And you can go through and see most of those, either like earlier podcast episodes, but especially you can see most of them in the sweater video that I put together if you are interested in those. Another goal of mine was to knit 6 pairs of socks, and I actually doubled that. I knit 12 pairs of socks. And so at the beginning of the year, I realized that I was knitting socks at about like 1 per month, like a pair of socks per month pace, and I decided I wanted to try to keep that up partway through the year. So I was able to stick to it, and I also knit my first ever pair of socks for myself this year, and I knit 5 pairs of socks for myself. So 5 of the 12 were for myself, which was really exciting. I think before this year I had knit maybe 7 or 8 pairs of socks, and none of them had been for myself. They'd always been for gifts and for other people. So I think that feeds nicely into another goal of mine for 2020, which was to knit more for myself than for others. I know different people have like different philosophies on this, and things have kind of changed and evolved for me over time. And I love knitting for other people, especially if they love it and appreciate it. It's one of my favorite things. But I decided to kind of prioritize knitting a little bit more for myself this year, and I think I accomplished that. I guess I knit more socks for other people than myself, but 11 of the, or not 11, because I guess a couple of the bralettes were for other people as well, but most of the garments I made were for myself. I made a couple of large wraps for myself, which was also a goal, to make 2 larger kind of shawls or wraps. So I feel like I definitely accomplished that. And then the last kind of type of goals that I had were technique goals. So I had never done stranded color work before, and I had never done 2-color brioche before. So I'd done 1-color brioche, like fisherman's rib type thing, but I'd never done 2-color. And I accomplished both of those. So I did a colorwork cowl and a 2-color brioche cowl, and then I did the Plumpy shawl, which is a large 2-color brioche shawl, and I love that, and it's probably my favorite shawl, and I wear it tons. And I also knit the Panglossian, which is like a t-shirt type thing, and it's a colorwork shirt, and the whole thing is stranded colorwork. So that was my technique goals, and I met those as well. So it was a really good year for meeting my goals. I think just because my knitting ramped up a ton this year. I knit tons more this year than I ever had in the past. Part of that just being that I got a lot more invested in the knitting community. I had a really solid knit night group that we met pretty regularly, and we talked a lot about our knitting and stuff, and so I think that helped me a ton as well, just stay with the knitting. And also just I guess somewhat of a positive side effect of the pandemic, I was stuck at home a ton of the time, and so I was just here, and that was really all I could do was knit. So yeah, so I definitely blew my 2020 goals out of the water. So going into 2021, a couple goals that I'll start with, and maybe I can put these up on the screen as well. I actually, so some of you may know if you follow me on Instagram, or if you watch some of my Vlogmas videos, that my husband Nafis and I drove to Oklahoma to visit our family, so to Oklahoma from Seattle, and then drove back. So we drove back a little over a week ago, or yeah, just around a week ago. And on our drive back, so it's like a 30-hour drive, so we had tons of time, and so I was talking with Nafis about what I thought my goals should be for, my knitting goals should be for 2021. We talked about other kinds of goals as well, but just like, what should my knitting goals be for this year? And I found myself wanting to set like really aggressive goals, and Nafis was, I guess, trying to caution me, because, you know, his thought was that I probably wasn't going to have tons more time to knit in 2021 than 2020. That this is probably like, 2020 was maybe the peak, like the maximum of the amount of time that I would have to knit. So in 2021, I originally was thinking about optimizing for sweater knitting. I have tons of sweater quantities of yarn in my stash that I really want to go through. I have lots of really fun sweater projects that I'm thinking about, and really, I think I wear my hand knit sweaters a ton, and I don't wear like my scarves and shawls as much. So I thought those would be the most useful. So I originally was thinking about trying to knit like maybe, I don't know, like a sweater a month is a pretty good pace if I'm not knitting a ton on other stuff. But Nafis encouraged me to maybe like pull that back a little bit. So my goal for 2021, I think, is to knit 8 sweaters. And I think I have like 6 sweater quantities of yarn in my stash already. So like getting through all of those, plus I'm sure I'll buy more yarn. Yeah, so that's my sweater goal. I still want to knit some socks, but I don't think I want to do 12 again. I don't want to do 1 per month. So I'm thinking that I'll stick with the 6 pairs of socks goal, and you know, I may meet that and I may not, depending on how much time and effort I spend on the sweaters. I still want to knit a couple shawls and wraps. I think a goal of mine is that I go into next December having at least finished one of my Advent projects. So I got 2 Advent calendars. One was like a full 24 mini skein Advent calendar, and one was a 7 mini skein. And so I have a couple projects playing with those, and I'd like to at least have one of those Advent projects finished going into next December. What other goals do I have? My technique goal for this year is Intarsia, which I can't tell you right now like how it works or anything. I'm not super familiar with it, but I know that I have a pattern picked out that uses Intarsia. It's a type of color work. It's not stranded color work, but it's another type of like changing colors. And so that is my technique goal for this year. I also was inspired by some of my Knit Night friends to set a goal for myself about taking better pictures of my yarn, as well as I think I'm doing a better job of like taking pictures of my finished objects, especially like my garments. I'm doing a much better job, largely thanks to you all, because I want to make sure to have good photos to share either in the podcast or also like on Instagram and stuff. So I definitely want to continue that, taking really good pictures of my finished objects, but also taking good pictures of my yarn. This is something that I actually did better with before 2021, or before 2020, was taking really good pictures of my yarn and logging it in my stash on Ravelry. And that's something I really didn't do as well in 2020 that I'd like to bring back in 2021. So part of that, the reason why all my yarn, I guess I should have mentioned this, the reason why all my yarn is out and not in my shelf right now is because I took all my yarn out and I took a flat lay picture of it to share with my knitting group, because a lot of them are taking pictures of their whole stash as well. And then throughout the year, whenever I use yarn from my stash, I can kind of mark it off, kind of like color it out on my picture, and I can see like how I progressed through the year and how much of my stash yarn I've been using. So I took that picture this morning. I'll maybe put it up here so that you guys can see the picture of all my stash yarn out. And then I thought this would be a really good time to go through my stash yarn with you while I put it away. So while I'm putting it back into the shelves, I'm going to go through and talk about my stash yarn. So yeah, hopefully this won't take too long. I'm not going to linger a ton on all of it, but just kind of go through the yarn that I have and my plans for it. So first, I guess I'll just talk about my shelf. So I also, some of you may know, if you have watched the podcast a little bit, I guess I shouldn't stand up. But if you've watched the podcast a little bit, you may know that I sew a little bit as well. So I keep this is like my fabric stash. I have all my fabric here. I don't have a ton of fabric, but I do have, I have some that my granny bought for me for my last birthday. So I have a little bit of a fabric stash, and then also like my sewing machine and all the things that go with my sewing machine. So like thread and bobbins, and I have like a bias tape maker and stuff. So these two are just sewing stuff. This bin is all of my like leftover yarns. So once I've done a project and I have like a little bit left, I just toss it in here, and it's actually getting pretty full. I don't know, I need to do some scrap busting or give away some of these, or I don't know, get another bin or something. But so this is my leftover skeins. These are my knitting books and like knitting patterns that I have in these folders, and also my blockers, my blocking mats. And then this one is just filled with all my knitting bags, project bags I have in here that are not in use. And then this one is just like a whole bunch of tools. So like my Swift, my ball winder, sock blockers, that kind of stuff is all in here. And then this one is full skeins that have already been wound. So either like I had a leftover skein from a project, or I wound the skein for some reason and then didn't end up using it, or didn't end up using all of it or whatever. So these are like larger full skeins that have already been wound. And then this that I have back here is actually yarn that I have a project kind of in progress. I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast before, but I started a crocheted blanket. It's like a granny square blanket. The pattern is called Bear's Rainbow Blanket, I think on Purl Soho. I have a project page for it on Ravelry if you want to see it, but I have not worked on it in years. I started this project, I think, in like 2013 or 2014, and I haven't worked on it in years. But I still have the yarn, and at some point I'll probably finish it. I do think I was planning to make like a larger kind of lap size throw. I think I will probably convert it to like a baby blanket size, and I will do it when either I or someone close to me has a baby. When someone I know has a baby, I will probably just finish it and make it like a baby blanket. Okay, so yarn here that I'm gonna put away. This yarn is Alafoslopi, so it's a larger, a heavier kind of like worsted Aran weight yarn. And I got some of it when I went to Iceland with my husband after we got married. So like for our honeymoon, we went to Iceland, and I got a couple of skeins of this. And then actually just recently for Christmas, my mom got me a couple more skeins because I want to make the Vega jacket, which is the pattern I was talking about that has intarsia. So it's kind of like a cardigan style jacket, and it has a beautiful color work like intarsia pattern on the shoulders, like on the upper arms. And I'm really excited about that. So hopefully, I don't know if that'll be next or maybe 1 or 2 sweaters ahead, but that is my plan for this yarn. So I have a couple of the gray, and then I also have, Norman's back. I also have this lighter, like whitish, creamy gray color to do the color work for on the top. So that is that. This is Peace Fleece Worsted in the Palomino colorway. Some of you may recognize this. This is the yarn that I used to knit my oversized seasons cardigan, which is a test knit that I did at the end of last year. And I had 2 skeins left over, actually. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this. I may hold on to it for a while. I may like destash it or something. But yes, I still have these 2 skeins of that. And also, I generally organize my yarn in my cabinet by yarn weight. But I have a little bit that kind of muddles together. But anyway, yeah, so that is that. What's next? I can do the like worsted DK bin. So this is some yarn that I got from a friend of mine in my knitting group. This is Shibui, I think is how you say it, knits. And it is a 85% extra fine merino, 15% cashmere. It's like a worsted weight roughly, and they're 50 gram skeins, and I have 4 of them. I'm not quite sure what I'm gonna make with this, but probably something very luxurious. Because it feels so soft and nice. And then I also have this yarn that same friend gave me. This is just some Plymouth DK. I think it's just 100% superwash merino. Yeah. And I have, are these 50 gram skeins? I think so, yeah. These are 50 gram skeins. And I have 6 of these 50 gram skeins. So I don't know. It might be a sweater quantity, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I was actually kind of thinking about making a sweater for Norman out of this yarn. I thought that might be kind of nice. I think he would look nice in that blue color. Okay. What else? This is also a worsted weight. This is yarn I actually got in Seattle at Pike's Place Market. There was a booth where a woman was selling hand-dyed yarn. I don't even know like the brand. Oh, Bedhead Fiber, naturally dyed. And this is called Cumulonimbus. And it's dyed with organic indigo. And it's like just a single worsted weight skein. It's really nice. Here, let me show. Yeah. It's like white and blue. Of course, I can't get it to focus. It's my head, isn't it? Well, you get the point, I think. There we go. So, this one's really nice. I don't know what I'm going to make with it because I only have 1 skein, but it's really pretty. And I like it. This is Hedgehog Fibers Merino Aran. The color is licorice, and I got this as part of a club that I was a part of. I did the 3-month like surprise club or whatever, where they just send you one skein of yarn each month for 3 months. And this is one that I got, and I have actually used the other 2 skeins. Actually, no, one of them I gave away to a friend in my knitting group, and then the other one I used, and this is the last one that I have left. Okay. Oh, this is my last kind of worsted-ish skein, I think. This is Insouciant Fibers, which is yarn that I got from Church Mouse Yarns and Teas, which is a yarn store. I think they closed their physical location, but this was a yarn store on Bainbridge Island, which is an island just off, just a little bit, very close to Seattle in the Sound. And it's really nice and soft. This is a 50-gram skein, and I think it's alpaca and CVM wool. And I think it was like locally sourced. But yeah, this is just a single skein I have of that. I need to go faster through these. These are 3 skeins of Madeline Tosh DK in the conference call colorway. I think I got them all 3 at different times, so they may not match perfectly, but they're light gray with like little speckles of like purple and blue. I don't know if you can see. Yeah. And I'm planning to make like a shawl wrap type thing with them at some point. Tons of grays and blues. Okay, let's go into another cubby. So some of these you guys have probably already seen on the podcast if you've watched the podcast. This yarn here is Cloudborn Merino Alpaca Sport in the Silver Heather colorway. I think I showed this when I acquired it on the podcast. It's really nice. It's alpaca and merino, 80% merino, 20% alpaca. It's super soft, and I want to make a fluffy brioche scarf for myself with it. I made a brioche scarf for my husband Nafis, and he really likes it, and I also really like it, and I want to make one for myself. So that's what I got this for. Okay, what is next? This also sport weight yarn. This is a sweater quantity of Autumn and Indigo Classic Sport in the Loma colorway. This really beautiful, like yellowy golden color. You can see it doesn't really need to focus. The point is just the color, but now it bothers me that it's not focusing. Anyway, you can see it. But I have a sweater quantity of this, and I got this with the intent of making the Poetria sweater, which is a sweater by Sari Nordlund. And I have made the Poet socks, and I'm also currently making the Poet shawl. So it's like this really beautiful lace pattern, and I just love that lace pattern so much that I want to make like all the pieces in the set. So I have this to make that pattern. Okay. Other sport weight yarn. This is some 100% alpaca yarn that I actually got from an alpaca farm in Washington. So Nafis, I think it was last year, not 2020, but 2019 for my birthday / anniversary. Excuse me. He took me to an alpaca farm, and we got to like feed the alpacas and tour and see them. And then I also purchased some yarn that was sourced right there from the alpaca farm. And so this yarn is, I just have 2 skeins of this. It's like a sport weight, and it's from the alpaca Chelsea. I met Chelsea, so that was really fun. And little did Nafis know that definitely increased, him taking me there definitely increased our chances of at some point in the future having an alpaca farm, because I loved it and it was very fun. So yeah, those are from there, and I'm probably gonna make like a little cowl or something with those at some point. Okay, other DK weight yarn. This is also a recent acquisition. This is my first ever stranded dye works, and it is her Merino DK base in the colorway Patisserie, and I am planning to make the Tulip Jumper by Melody Hoffman with this yarn. And then my other DK sweater quantity is from Explore Knits and Fibers. It is her Rockies DK base, which is a 100% superwash merino base in the Duomo colorway. I don't know if this will show up on camera, like true to color, but it's this gorgeous, like really pale base with pinks and like muted kind of greens. Please focus. Focus. There we go. So you can see it here. It's very pale, and like muted, but also really nice colors. And I am planning with this yarn to make the water bearer. Oh, please focus back on me. Ah, maybe come back. Oh boy. Maybe if I just sit back, it'll come back. There we go. I'm planning to make the water bearer sweater by Jacqueline Cieslak with that, which is like a nice cardigan, and it has like these fun kind of wavy brioche panels down the front, and I'm really excited about that. I think that will be really nice with this yarn, so put that away. Okay, we are cruising through this. So, other sport weight yarn I have. This one I think I also showed on the podcast at some point. This is, I don't know how to say it, Ulysses, which is a yarn base by, gosh, De Rerum Natura, maybe? And I have it in the Pauvre Blanc colorway, which I don't remember what that means in French. But it is this really nice, it's like salt or something. This is a really nice, like creamy, light gray. You can see the color even though it's not focusing, I think. It's my face that's in the way. There we go. Yeah, you can see it's like really creamy and like a light gray color. And I want to make like a brioche, focus, please. Yeah. I want to make like a brioche sweater, like a fisherman's rib type sweater, and I don't have a specific pattern in mind for it. I actually was inspired by a sweater that I saw, like a ready-to-wear sweater that I saw on Madewell, that has these kind of like raglans and also like the brioche kind of pattern decreases on the bottom as well. And so I may like look a little more for a pattern, or I may just kind of go off on my own a little bit. We'll see, but I'm excited about this, and the yarn is really nice, so that will be good. Put all of this in here. Okay, so I think we've made it to fingering weight yarn, which I probably have the most of. I think lots of knitters have the most fingering weight yarn. So yeah, this is my like bulkier Aran worsted weight yarn, DK-ish, a little bit of worsted, and then all my sport weight yarn. Okay, so just the fingering weight left to get through. A lot of this I've actually used recently. I used to have more fingering weight yarn. So I do have a sweater quantity of yarn to make the pink velvet sweater, which is a colorwork yoke sweater by Andrea Mowry. And this yarn is from my favorite dyer, Grenouille. So I have 2 skeins in her singles base of Lamp Black, which is a gorgeous gray. And then I also have 1 skein for the colorwork of Moonrise. And this is, I think, in the 75-25 sock base. So merino nylon. And I also bought a skein of mohair. So this is just Biche et Bouche Les Petites Silk mohair. to hold with this if I wanted to get the like fuzzy part of the color work, but I'm not sure if I will do that or not. So there's that. I also have a couple of skeins of Brooklyn Tweed Loft. So this is for a project that is actually in progress right now. I'm working on the Poet Shawl, and I just haven't wound up all the skeins. So this I'll just put back in my shelf. What else do we have? I have a couple skeins of this Biche et Bouche Lait Cashmere and lamb's wool, which is a wool and cashmere blend. And I was intending to make that brioche scarf with this, but it just like wasn't the right yarn for that project. So I started it and then I ended up frogging it. And now I think I'll make some sort of colorwork sweater with it, but I don't know exactly what. And I would need more yarn for that. But I have like 3 skeins of this, I think. So that can go here. I also have a skein of Malintosh Euro Sock in the Stormborn colorway. This is leftover, so this was a gift from one of my Knit Night friends. And this is leftover from when I made my Cozy Classic Raglan by Jessie May. I used it and this mohair held together, and I have about 1 skein of each left over. And let's see what else. I have a few skeins of just plain black yarn. This is Cascade Heritage in, I don't know, the colorway black, I think, which is just a merino wool and nylon blend. And I really like to just have plain white, gray, black yarn on hand. I don't have any white and gray right now, but I'm thinking about weaving with this at some point this year. So I don't think you can see it, but right on top of my shelf is my loom. I have a Cricut loom, and I haven't woven in probably a year or 2. I actually lost some of the pieces that I need to weave, and my mom for Christmas got me a couple of the pieces that I need. So hopefully this year, I guess that's another goal of mine, is to start weaving again. And I kind of want to do it with this black with some color, maybe the black for the warp, and then I could do some color for the weft. We'll see. Maybe some mini skeins for that. I have tons of those, which we'll get into soon. And then I have some single skeins of sock yarn. So these are both Hedgehog fibers, and they were from Hedgehog fiber clubs that I did years ago, like when I was in college. And I actually did 2 clubs, and I think I got 6 skeins of sock yarn. And these are the only 2 that are left over from that. And I really like these. I think these 2 actually might be my favorite from the clubs. So I don't know why I haven't used them yet, but I'm not sure what I'll use them yet. Maybe just for socks or put them in projects with other stuff. And then I do have a single skein of Hedgehog. This one wasn't part of club. This is the Monet colorway, which is really gorgeous. It's like blue, light blue with like little bits of orange and pink in it. Really gorgeous. And I still have that as well. So I don't know what I'll use that for. Maybe socks. Yeah, and then this is just a single skein of Woolberry Fiber Co. In their Berry Sock base, which is actually a BFL nylon base in the Oasis colorway, which is just a really gorgeous semi-solid blue. And I might make lace socks with this. I had another like tonal Woolberry skein that I got at the same time. It was the Pink Canyon colorway, and I made those Poet socks with it, and it's so gorgeous. So I may make another pair of Poet socks, maybe for my mom or my sister, because I think they really liked those socks. So maybe I'll do that in this blue colorway. This is also just a single skein of sock yarn that I got at some point. I think I got this one in Portland when we traveled there like years ago. This is called Ancient Arts yarn in the Old Growth Forest colorway, which is a really nice like dark tonal green. Not sure what I'll do with that. Maybe like a bralette or something. This one is Madeline Tosh sock in the Stargazing colorway. This one has a little bit of a story. So I actually bought this off of the D-Stash. I had the yarn. I bought the yarn originally so this is my second skein of this. The first skein I bought originally just like, I think from MadelineTosh.com or whatever, because I really liked it and I wanted to make Nofus a pair of socks out of this. So I asked him what color he wanted and he said surprise me, and I loved this yarn. I hope I can zoom in on it and do it justice. This colorway is so gorgeous. I hope you can see it. Maybe. It is really dark blue with like green, like bits of green and almost like purple in it. I love this color. Anyway, yeah, oh, there you go. So you can see it a little bit. So I started knitting Nofus a pair of socks, and I'd made maybe 1.5 socks when we were going on vacation with my family. And so our rental car was broken into and my backpack was stolen. And in my backpack, I had the socks that I was making Nofus, along with like my computer, and my camera wasn't in there, but I had like headphones and charging cords, and I actually had a hat that I was embroidering in there. So, I mean, my wallet was in there, tons of stuff. So it was a huge bummer, but a lot of that stuff I could replace, but you can't replace stuff that you've made by hand. So that was huge bummer. I was almost done with the socks too, and it was in this colorway. So I thought, okay, I'll just get another skein of yarn to make him another pair of socks. A couple things happened then. I found out that the color was actually discontinued. So I contacted Madeline Tosh, and they said that because the color was really difficult to maintain consistency between batches, they discontinued this color. So I was heartbroken, and then I thought maybe I'll try to find it on a D-stash. So luckily I found it on Ravelry on a D-stash. Someone sent this yarn to me, and I have it again. Turns out Nofus actually wanted gray socks, so I ended up getting him some gray yarn and making him gray socks with it. But I still have this yarn. I'm so glad that I was able to get another skein of it. It feels so precious to me for some reason, I guess, just having it now. So yeah, I'm not sure what I'll make with this. Maybe some socks for myself, or maybe I'll just make him socks anyway out of this. But yeah, I have that. And then I also have, these are 250-gram skeins of Koyu KPPM. I don't know what this is, but it's just a normal, I think it actually maybe 100% merino wool, but it's like a really high twist and really fun color. And this I got, actually, I think a friend that I worked with when I worked at a yarn store in Oklahoma, one of my friends that worked there with me, gifted this to me. And so this was purchased from the yarn store that I worked at in Norman, Oklahoma. It's one of the few things I have left from that yarn store. And I just love it. I love the colors. I think it's gorgeous. And I think I'll probably make a pair of socks at some point with this. Okay. All we have left really is Advent yarn. So we're almost done. So like I mentioned earlier, and if you've watched the podcast recently or my Vlogmases, you'll know that I did 2 Advents this year. I did a 7-day Stress Knits Advent, and I did the full 24-day Grenouille Advent. And so these are all my Advents. They're in these boxes. And I also, so this is the full skein that I got with my Grenouille Advent, which is just gorgeous. This is the one that I got on Christmas Day. Beautiful. And these two I purchased as part of Stress Knit's most recent update to go with some of my mini skeins because I wanted to make a project that uses them together. So my plan right now, you may not be able to see these very well, but is to put all of these together in a project. So that's 5 of the 7 mini skeins plus these 2. This one is, so these are all in her favorite base, which is an 80/20 superwash merino nylon. This one is called Old Pine, and I just love it. I think it's my favorite. And then this one is Eloise. So I have that. Put that in here. And then here are all my Advent minis from that Advent calendar. You can see them. They're not really focusing, but that's okay. And then I already showed you this one. This is the full skein from my Grana Week advent calendar. And all the minis. Oh, I just dropped one, but I'm going to put them in here. And with that, that is it. So that is all my yarn, all in here. You can see it. It's all of my stash. So I have definitely developed quite a bit more stash this year than I ever have before. But I'm excited about it. I'm excited to work through it. I went through, I think, some of the sweaters that I have planned with the yarn that I have in here. I'm sure I'll buy more yarn and I will knit lots of things not from stash, but I'm excited going into 2021 and I hope you all are too. So like if you have any yarn goals or knitting goals or anything that you want to share, please share them with me in the comments. And I will hopefully have a new, more normal episode for you all pretty soon, maybe next week. So thank you so much for tuning in to this, and I hope you do lots of knitting and watch lots of baseball and have a great week. Bye.